Jacob and his family settled in Canaan. Of all his sons, Jacob favored Joseph, the firstborn of his deceased beloved wife Rachel, and he made for him a special robe of fine wool. The terminology in the verse for this special robe is ksenes pasim, which is usually mistranslated as something like a technicolor coat. The reality is that this coat or robe did have many colors, but because of that relatively ambiguous translation, technicolor coat, very often it is rendered in all sorts of musicals and plays and whatever as being many colors all mixed together. Kind of like these or clothing from the 60s and 70s where you have all the colors that are kind of rainbow that's not exactly straight. But the reality is that the translation is ksenes pasim, a robe of stripes. Of course it had many colors. It had specifically the 7 colors of the rainbow. But they were striped. They didn't intermingle, and why Jacob gave such a coat, why this was the indication of his favoritism, and we'll deal with that in a second as well, how a father of any level, certainly of a level of a righteous person, can show favoritism to a child. But that aside for a second, the way that Jacob showed his favoritism to Joseph is that he indicated that he would be the next leader of the Jewish people, specifically by virtue of giving him such a robe of striped colors. The 7 colors of the rainbow indicate the 7 different midas, the 7 different character traits that all people have. The human psyche is made up of 7 character traits. Everyone has all 7, things like kindness, judgment, perseverance, etc. Everybody, however, in addition to having all 7, has one of those particular midas, one of those character traits, that is his prominent character trait. Everyone has all 7, but one is the main way that that person can be characterized. Therefore, when, for example, we see the colors of the rainbow, that is a representation of all the different people in the world or in the Jewish nation in particular. When we have the 7 branches of the menorah and the Kohen lights those, that's exactly the same concept, that he can connect to all the different 7 kinds of people that there are, and that is also the indication of Joseph's robe. He can connect to every single one of those kinds of people that there are in the Jewish nation, and that is part and parcel of being a proper leader, that you have to be able to empathize, to be able to connect to be able to influence anybody and everybody. The main emphasis, however, is that the stripes did not interweave. The colors were distinct. All the colors were present, but every color had its own lane, and one didn't go into the other. Because the idea of properly connecting to someone is not to make them into something that they are not. It's not to make a person who is, let's say, represented by the color blue to be like someone who is represented by the color red. Rather, each person, as they are, is to connect to the leader of the generation. The leader of the generation, of course, has to be able to do that, and, of course, to influence them in their particular service of Hashem.